The Jungian Daily. I quit looking at next week's weather patterns yesterday. Strange thing for someone who spent 15 years tracking storm systems across the Great Plains. But hear me out. It started when my supervisor pulled me aside last month. Rosa, your 7-day forecasts have been creative lately. Creative. That's corporate speak for you're not following the models we pay you to follow. The thing is, I'd been seeing patterns in the atmospheric data that didn't match our standard algorithms. Subtle pressure shifts, wind current anomalies that suggested something the computers weren't catching. But here's the real kicker. I'd been ignoring my own observations to stick with what was expected. Standing in that sterile office, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, I realized I'd been forecasting other people's weather for years. See? My whole career I've been the reliable one. Rosa who delivers consistent predictions. Rosa who doesn't rock the boat. Rosa who graduated summa cum laude and never questioned the established atmospheric models. Even at 31, I was still trying to be the daughter my physicist father wanted. Methodical, by the book, never trusting intuition over data. But last Tuesday, watching a thunderstorm build over the wheat fields outside Amarillo, something shifted. The air had that electric taste you get before a serious system moves through, and my instruments were reading one thing, while my gut was screaming something completely different. 20 years of watching skies told me this storm was going to veer north and intensify. The models said it would dissipate. I filed the official forecast based on the computer projections. The storm did exactly what I thought it would do. That night, sitting in my trailer with the wind rattling the windows, I started thinking about all the times I'd second-guessed myself. In graduate school, when my thesis advisor dismissed my research into microclimate variations as too speculative. In my first job, when I learned to soften my language around veteran meteorologists. The data suggests instead of I believe, models indicate instead of I've observed. I'd been wearing this mask of professional competence for so long, I'd forgotten what my actual thoughts felt like underneath it all. The breaking point came during last week's staff meeting. We were discussing budget cuts, and everyone was nodding along as management explained why we needed to rely more heavily on automated systems. Less human interpretation, more algorithmic consistency. I opened my mouth to agree. That's what Rosa, the team player, would do. And instead heard myself saying, "What if we're wrong?" The room went quiet. You could hear the coffee maker gurgling in the corner. Wrong about what? My supervisor asked. About thinking consistency is more valuable than accuracy. About assuming computers see patterns better than people who've been watching storms their whole lives. I kept talking, and it was like watching someone else speak. This version of me who trusted her observations, who didn't apologize for seeing things differently, who'd been buried under years of professional expectations, but was apparently still alive in there somewhere. The meeting ended awkwardly, but walking to my car afterward, I felt this strange lightness, like I'd been holding my breath for years, and finally exhaled. Now I'm sitting here at 5 a.m., coffee growing cold, looking at today's atmospheric readings. There's a low-pressure system moving in that everyone else thinks will bring light showers, but the barometric drop feels different against my skin. The clouds have that particular density I've learned to recognize. I'm writing 2 forecasts today. The official one that matches expectations, and another one, just for me, that says what I actually think is coming. Maybe tomorrow I'll only write one. There's something terrifying about trusting your own judgment when you've spent so long deferring to external authorities. But there's also something alive about it, like finally admitting you have your own relationship with the world, separate from what everyone else expects you to see. The sky doesn't care about our career pressures or professional personas. It just is what it is. And maybe, after all these years, I'm finally ready to be what I am too.